Hello, you wonderful humans. Thank you for being here. It's Wednesday. It's 7 o'clock. It means it's time for another Wednesday weekly workshop with yours truly, Drew Detzner, owner of 3D Wellness right here in New Berlin, Wisconsin. If this is your first time watching one of these workshops with us, thank you for being here, whether it is on YouTube or Instagram. The way these workshops go, you get to ask Drew anything. That's me. I'm still Drew. The idea is that there's all these questions my clients have. There's all this information I have from my more than 15 years of clinical experience. And I want to share that with the world. I want my clients to feel heard. I want them to have an opportunity to ask all of their questions, even the silly ones. And then I also want to share the knowledge that I have because I know it's going to help all of us. This is episode 88.
Yes, it is.
Wild. That is wild.
I like it.
We stay here answering questions until the questions run out, so chat them in right now. If you don't want to chat them in on YouTube or on Instagram, call us. Here is our phone number, 262-505-5012. We take questions live on the air. We love doing that. We get a kick out of that. I have to pay the phone bill whether or not the phone rings, so at least make it ring for me, okay? As always, I'm joined by the incomparable Two Boots, Lori LeClaire.
Here I am.
There she is. All right, this week in clinic, we saw a big change in a case with anxiety, specifically around driving.
Driving?
Driving.
Wow.
Which, if you're in our part of the country right now, there's snow. A lot of people get anxious about snow. This was like the perfect week to feel better about anxiety and driving and all that stuff. We got some resolution on some constipation. If you're not pooping, you're not feeling as good as you could. I realized we gave out a lot of hugs this last week.
We did. A lot of people needed hugs this week.
People are going through it right now for a whole myriad, a whole long list of different reasons. People were feeling it. Lots of hugs. That's there's no fee for the hugs here. Other stuff that we worked on was sleeplessness. You can call it insomnia, you can call it trouble falling asleep, whatever you want to call it. And then the biggest thing that we did constantly was educate. We never want any of the things we do here to seem mysterious. We don't like it when clients are unsure what their supplement program is doing for them or why they're doing a certain thing that we've recommended. So a really big deal for us is educate, educate, educate. Oh, and then French doctors' papers.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is pretty cool. I mentioned, was it last week?
It was last week, yep.
That we have some people who are internationally contacting us. One of them is from France. And there's always this part in the back of my mind. It's all emails. Somebody could just be messing with me. They're getting a good rise out of me. Okay.
Pause. Someone was questioning your mic. They both look on.
Yep.
The audio quality changed. I think Drew's mic went off, but maybe it's back on now.
Maybe it's back on. Thank you for pointing that out. I got 2 green lights.
Yeah.
Green is
okay, let us know if you still can't hear.
Yeah, thank you. But sincerely, thank you for pointing that
stuff
out. So there's always this part in the back of my brain that's like, a person via email can say they're from any part of the world. But then when they forwarded me blood work from their doctor, it was all in French. I was like, all right, that's really a person from France.
CN says, still low sound, bro. I'm wondering if, do you need to face it a different direction, the one on your left? Oh, that's the YouTube one, yeah. Do you want to switch with mine? Hearing you is more important.
Can you hear Lori more clearly than you can hear me?
Test, test, test 1, 2. Yes, he says.
We'll do a swap.
Yep.
Thanks for pointing that out, CN. And that is why you buy wireless microphone kits that have 2 microphones in them. So this very thing can happen. Did any questions roll in?
Yes, we got a few here.
Cool.
kind of open-ended, so you'll have to ask questions, I'm sure. But question from her is, any recommendations for pregnant mothers?
Oh, geez.
Right?
How many hours do you have? Well, we can do some basics. I'm very fortunate in my career. I've gotten to work with a lot of fertility and conception cases, a lot of new mamas and new dadas. So,
Not pregnant yet, she said, but plan to be.
Cool.
That's
Okay.
even better.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's talk pregnant prep.
Okay.
Stuff that I like to do with clients before they actually conceive to make sure their body's in this place where it can do pregnancy the best that it possibly can. Okay. In my experience, mamas need elimination support. What do I mean by elimination support? I mean, in a matter of just a few days, when then the sperm cell finds the egg cell and 2 cells become 4, become 8, become 16, 32, 64, etc. Mama's body becomes responsible for clearing out the waste that naturally comes with having cells replicate at such an incredible rate. It's totally amazing how quickly those 2 cells go through all that replication. So we want to make sure that mama's body has elimination support, that she can get junk out, because it's not just her junk anymore. She's taking care of junk for 2, her and the baby. If it's twins or triplets, you just keep adding numbers. Okay. Most important thing, our dear sweet friend, our favorite, Spanish black radish. Safe during pregnancy unless you have something specific about black radish that you can't have them. Spanish black radish is really good for the liver and for the bowel. It has immune benefit to it. It has some kidney benefit within it. And it's got a whole host of nutrients in it, including some whole food folate. And folate is the preferred form of folic acid. And all of that is right inside our Spanish black radish. So elimination support is the first thing. Then I want to make sure that mama is getting plenty of minerals. I have 2 favorites specific to pregnancy. Our sweet friend Mintran, we use that for a lot of things with Calcifood. I love Calcifood for a lot of things, especially growing healthy bones. And a baby's about to do that. Okay? Mintran's going to give us a lot of the trace minerals that we know the body needs to perform ideally. And then last but not least, we want some immune support. Now, I don't want to stimulate the immune system. The immune system has enough going on in a pregnant woman's body. It's dealing with all the routine stressors of life and trying to keep things in check with the kiddo, including not attacking the kiddo. Because the creation of life is totally amazing, but it is essentially like having this insane parasite for 10 months. So we don't ever want mama's body to turn on kiddo's body. So we won't stimulate the immune system, we'll just support it. And I like to do that with Immuplex. If we can cover these 3 bases, we're doing a lot of the things that we have to do. Put those things in place. And then once you get closer to conceiving, there's like a second tier, okay? But this is first tier. Second tier, on some DHA, which is a type of omega-3. And you can get that from tuna omega-3 or Olprima DHA. All by standard process, all available through my website. You want to get some DHA. Either one of these products is great. It's tested, it's pure, it doesn't have any of the garbage in it. And then it's not a standard process supplement, but I think it's totally wonderful. It's made by Food Research. And it's called B6, B12, folate. We're using it primarily for the folate. I mentioned you get a little bit from Spanish black radish, really not enough for a whole pregnancy. So when you're getting ready to get pregnant, we would definitely want these ones in play. Once you're actually attempting at conception, that's when we would want these in play, and then sustain them through the pregnancy. That's the basics of pregnancy prep. And Zara, did that answer your question? It would be fancy if we got another dry erase board in here. And then we could pivot the cameras and I can answer questions on the second dry erase board. Then we hear back from the first question. Yeah, that's good.
She says yes, thank you.
Awesome. Really good question. I'm glad you asked.
All right, our next question on Instagram comes from Schmitty.
Schmitty.
Is there any way to heal articular cartilage that has been damaged through overuse, aka osteoarthritis? The supplements, of course.
My man.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to talk about cartilage.
Cartilage is an A.
Cartilage?
I think so.
Help me out, because I knew I spelled this wrong. I was literally about to turn around. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. A couple of different things that we can do to help cartilage. A? Okay, thank you.
Not there. L-A-G-E.
Yeah.
There you go. Doesn't happen often, but that's what you got me for, right?
I would politely disagree. I think it does happen often. I think people don't usually ask me about words that I don't use all the time, so I'm good with those. Anyways, let's talk about cartilage. Okay. Couple of things. On a person's hair tissue mineral analysis, which I recommend they get done at least once a year, one of the most important things to look at is the sodium to potassium ratio. And that's because that sodium to potassium ratio tells us so much about what's going on in terms of how your body tolerates and handles inflammation. The tissue around cartilage, if we're going to heal it, we need to keep the inflammation down so we have really good blood flow to the area, good lymph flow through the area. We want everything nice and calm. So that's the first thing we're going to look at. As long as that ratio is out of whack, it's a lot more work to heal what's going on with cartilage. The next thing we'll do on the hair tissue mineral analysis is we will look at the mineral manganese. Now, it happens for a lot of people. They are typically low in good, I'll put that in parentheses, good manganese. What do I mean by that? We can get manganese from well water. We can get it from working in a foundry. We can get it from working in a shop that processes metals or does like sandblasting of metals, cutting metal with water jets, all these things, okay? But that form of manganese is no good for us and doesn't help our cartilage do anything that we want it to do. So people can come in and on their hair analysis have a really high level of manganese, but it's the junk form of the manganese. So they're low in the good form of manganese. If we're going to help somebody dealing with osteoarthritis or a cartilage issue, we have got to make sure their manganese level is good in the good manganese. Hope that makes sense. And then last but not least, eat bone broth. With bone broth, the name of the game is consistency. You can do as little as 4 ounces a day. Put it in your soup, put it in a mug and warm it up, drink it, eat it cold, whatever. 4 ounces a day is a small amount, but that'll do more for you. If you do 4 ounces a day, 4 days in a row, that's better for you. It has more benefit than if you do 16 ounces in 1 day. It's the same amount of bone broth going in your body, but giving your body that steady stream of it so it can keep working on a project has more benefit than if you just do a big dose every now and then. So for cartilage, we balance the sodium potassium, we get the good manganese, and we eat bone broth every day. Good question, Schmitty. Let me know if that answered it for you. See, this is where we would pivot. The other dry erase board would be there. And our peace lily isn't dying anymore.
You've been tending to it.
Yeah.
Very nicely.
Dr. Moira would be very proud. No word from Schmitty yet?
No.
We'll move on.
Josiah has a question.
Oh, cool. There's another question.
Okay, Josiah's question says, how important is brain rewiring? Shitty just said, yeah, I think so. Just interested in the mechanics of the healing process.
Yeah, let me dork out about that for just a second then. So think about it like Swiss cheese. Like the cartilage has like spots in it where it's missing things. And what we're trying to do is support all the blood flow going to the area. And everything in the area that's starting to get inflamed, it makes it, should draw that differently. When it gets inflamed, it takes that larger opening and makes it smaller. And then it's more difficult for nutrients to hit that target because it's a smaller target than if the opening was its original size. So by reducing inflammation in the body, we make the target for where we're going to send the bone broth and the manganese easier to hit. So I see a lot of people who take joint supplements that have a lot of manganese in it, and they use collagen or gelatin or bone broth, but their sodium potassium ratio is still way out of whack, and it makes it harder to get those nutrients into the targeted area. I hope that helps more.
Okay, back to Josiah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Brain rewiring.
How important is brain rewiring / training after detoxing and healing brain after injury or traumatic event?
Yeah. Sure. It's like a brain retrain. It's a very fancy word that we should all know. It's called neuroplasticity. Means the ever-changing brain. So I want you to think about your brain for the most part like a roadmap. And you have your favorite roads, right? You might have a place of employment or a friend's house, or favorite grocer, favorite restaurant that you drive to all the time. And you know just the way to get from your house, here's the nice door, there's a window upstairs, window on the first floor, and drive that road to getting to whatever place it is that you like going, okay? That does very little for our neuroplasticity. If we do the same thing day in and day out, it doesn't challenge our brain, and our brain just keeps hammering on this one roadway. Well, like roadways out there in the real world, if we hammer on that roadway, it starts to deteriorate, it gets tired, it gets potholes, it gets cracks, and that kind of stuff. So it's really good for us, especially after a trauma, is that we remind ourselves that we could probably drive from our house to our happy place on a different road every day of the week, every week, without ever repeating which road we drove down in the first place. Now, what that does for us when we use these different roads, we improve the circulation in our brain. That's a really big deal, especially since the era of COVID. One of the things that we see here clinically all the time is that the circulatory system in the human body has a difficult time fully recovering from COVID unless you really go after it and you support it nutritionally. One of the ways you can support the circulatory tissue in the brain without supplements is by making sure that we're doing these different retraining things. So we're not hammering on the same pathway or the same road, the green line, every day. That we're giving our brain this nice diversity that improves circulation to the area. Can actually reduce brain strain. That's really important. You only get one brain. We don't want to wear it out. And we see that in people where if they have just one way of thinking, if they have one way of handling problems, they tend to wear out that pathway. And they can kind of cave into it. I'm sure you've heard people be this way before, where it's almost like they have a set of lines, maybe 5 or 6 different lines, and a conversation with them always ends up going to those same couple of lines. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about how often I say Spanish black radish. I'm starting to feel super guilty. But when we use different parts of our brain, it takes strain off of the parts that aren't currently in use. It's like your favorite pair of shoes. If you wear them every day, they're going to wear out faster than if you rotate your footwear. Okay? So brain retraining in general is great, but especially after a trauma, so that our body doesn't harp on, let's say the red line is the trauma line, that our brain doesn't start thinking like, well, trauma was the biggest thing that happened to me for a while. It's what I remember the best because it was terrible and because it changed me. So for the time being, I'm going to forget those other pathways and just stick with what hurts. Because even though it hurts, it's familiar, which leaves me feeling comfortable on some level. We don't want that. So yeah, brain retraining, especially after trauma. Great thing to do.
All right, part 2 of Josiah's question on
Yeah.
this topic is also what are your thoughts on methylene blue for brain healing and mitochondria support?
Yeah. Has anybody out there seen the video of what people suspect is RFK Jr. putting methylene blue into a rocks glass? Have you seen this, Lori? So methylene blue is this incredibly blue. Oh, Lori came prepared with the perfect. It's like this color. Where did you get this nice Gordon Flesh water bottle?
Yeah, remember last year when we bought our
Right on.
at an open house or something?
So methylene blue is this kind of color. It's pretty rich, okay? And there's a video of RFK Jr. putting something that's blue liquid drops into a glass of what we suppose is water. Everybody's like, what is it? What is that? And it's probably methylene blue. So of course, I'm going to write about it in blue. Okay. So first thing I like people to know about methylene blue is it is incredibly potent. Most people that I meet cannot tolerate straight methylene blue. Most people take 1 drop, mixed with 16 ounces of water and sip that over the span of a couple of hours. That's a good starting dose for most people on methylene blue because it is so potent. Methylene blue is supposed to increase oxygenation in the blood. So that can absolutely influence our brain because if we're carrying more oxygen around inside of our blood, then we have the potential to deliver more of that oxygen to our brain. It is also spoken about in terms of a detox product. I think that's probably, again, just related to the way that we're using more oxygen. More oxygen we're using, oxygen can actually help us get some junk out. Also helps different organs of elimination perform their work better. And then the mitochondria part. Mitochondria is this like super hot word in the last year. Too many people, I feel, are making it the end all be all, the focus of your program if you're seeing a nutritionist. Mitochondria this and mitochondria that. It is absolutely important, but we have to keep in mind that most nutrients are involved in mitochondria performance, enhancement, replication, all those things. Methylene blue is not my first idea for if I'm going to support mitochondria in the body. Okay, so it's really potent. I always suggest people start very slowly. It does quite a bit with oxygen in the body, which can lead to some other things. I have had more clients start methylene blue while not under my care and come to me because of the reaction they had to it than clients who started it and just loved it. So what I'm trying to say is most people don't tolerate it well. Most people take way too much of it, in my experience, and it can cause some pretty gnarly symptoms. Headaches, visual disturbances, anxiety, irritability, things I don't want to deal with. I always recommend getting it tested before you start taking it. And sometimes you just have to water it down to that level of sometimes it's just one drop. There you go. I'm sure methylene blue had a big spike in searches after people saw what they thought was RFK Jr. taking some of it. I'm sure people are searching that now. Good. Other questions rolling in?
Sweet, thanks, he says.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad you asked.
More on Instagram and nothing on YouTube right now.
All right. I bet you have a question too, Boots.
I'd ask a question.
We'll give y'all online just a few more minutes to come up with questions. Otherwise, I'll answer Two Boots' question.
All right. This has to do with blood pressure. If somebody has high blood pressure, say 220 over 93.
220 over 93 for their blood pressure.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious what you can do for a client in a situation like that to support their blood pressure normalizing, so we can avoid medications, which is gonna just.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're talking about blood pressure. 220 over 93?
That's what I was told.
Okay, so a reading 220 over 93. I'll tell you the best thing that I would do for that person. It's really simple. I would really prefer drawing them a map to the hospital because their blood pressure is 220 over 93. Get away from me. I don't have things for that. 220. 220. Are we sure it's 220? Don't come to me if your blood pressure is 220. I'm sorry that's happening. Get it down to 160 and then we can talk. Whoo, 220?
Maybe it was a false reading.
I hope it was. I hope that machine is so broken that they throw it away. 220 is not time for a nutritionist.
Got it.
Whew. You are totally welcome. I would never want to hurt somebody doing that. Hospital. Sorry, I was trying to make it like a reveal. Okay, but let's talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, okay, so Schmitty here wants to follow up on the topic of the brain.
Okay, I want to go to that, but I want to talk about blood pressure. I have not just jokes. I have some other stuff. Okay. Cataplex E2 and Cataplex B2. Each one, take 2, and then I'm going to write 15 minutes. I'll explain this. All right. I've done this in the office with clients before. They've come in with a blood pressure reading 150, 160, something like that. 150, 160 is higher than I like to see blood pressure. So we test the person on Cataplex E2 and Cataplex B2. We have their blood pressure reading taken. And then they take 2 of each. And we wait 15 minutes. We take their blood pressure again. It's almost a guarantee that we will see a drop by 4 to 5 points in the first 15 minutes. I have seen that be repeated, so it can be repeated 5 times. So I've had clients come in, and over the span of about an hour and a half, their blood pressure has gone down by about 20 points, which is incredible. If you go from 160 down to 140 on your blood pressure readings, most doctors are going to leave you alone and say, whatever you're doing seems to be doing something good. I'll give you some time to work that out. Okay. What these 2 supplements do is they have the nutrients that take your blood vessel. If we're looking down your veins and your arteries and blood is flowing down into that hole, it does something called vasodilation, which opens up the veins and arteries. It makes them broader. You have the same amount of blood, but now the tubes it's going through are bigger, which means there's less pressure in the tube because there's more space in the tube. These 2 supplements have the nutrients that accomplish that. So it's not going to suddenly drop your blood pressure. What it'll do instead is help your body with figuring out how big do the tubes need to be for the amount of blood we have to flow the way we want it to flow.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
220, please do. We got to talk about it on Friday because we got to make sure that person's okay.
On this topic of blood pressure,
Yeah.
Josiah is offering a testimony. He says, on the topic of blood pressure, before I saw Drew, mine was always high, and doctors told me I should watch it. But after seeing Drew and detoxing, it's always been perfect.
Right on, dude.
Thank you, Josiah.
Yeah, thank you for saying something. And I love that stuff. I'm not ever trying to scare people away from doctors. I hope that's been like super clear on here and in all of these that I've done. But there's times if a doc says like, hey, just be aware of this, there's probably a natural thing that can be done to keep that in a good place or to push that, whatever the topic, blood sugar, blood pressure, weight, mood, whatever the thing, there's probably a natural thing. If the doc's saying, well, let's just monitor. Let's fix it so the doc stops talking about it because it's not a problem. All right, Schmitty had a brain.
Schmitty wanted a brain question. Any considerations or supplementation that can help people with congenital disorders like cerebral palsy?
Oh, wow.
I was going to say that's way up there. That's hospital care.
Are you talking about the 220 over 93?
Oh.
Was that a separate comment?
Was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Schmitty has a health care background.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
yep, okay.
Cool. Same page, Schmitty. All right. Congenital stuff like cerebral palsy.
Thank you. Pointing out I pronounced that wrong.
Oh, you did? Okay. Oh, whatever. Potato.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what can be done for this kind of thing? So when I work with clients who have Down syndrome or trisomy, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all these different things that are affecting neurological or muscle control things. Multiple sclerosis is another thing. I offer no cure. That's what a medical doctor does. That's what a specialist does. What I'm most interested in these cases is nourishing the nervous system. So what I want to talk about is nourishing the nervous system. All right, first thing I like to do that is the hair tissue mineral analysis. Might surprise you why I like the hair analysis right away. It's not just to see the minerals, it's actually to see what's going on with the aluminum level inside of the tissues of their body. What I have seen throughout my career is again and again, aluminum toxicity is on the case with cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, et cetera, et cetera. course, I want to know about their minerals also, but I got to see if there's something toxic in there that we know is very good at messing with the nervous system. So right away, I want that info. Next thing I like to do is I like to give some neurotrophin PMG. Neurotrophin PMG, remember, whenever you see PMG at the end of a standard process supplement, do I say this every week? I feel like I say this every week. It bears, well said. PMG means organ-specific nourishment and anti-inflammatory for whatever the word is in front of it. So neurotrophin PMG is nervous system PMG. It's nervous system anti-inflammatory and nourishment. Okay? There's cardiotrophin PMG, which is the PMG for the heart. There's dermatrophin PMG, which is the PMG for your skin. There's all these different PMGs, one for every body part: prostate, testes, uterus, ovaries, thyroid, etc., etc. And we like to use those because they're specific to the tissue. So I really want to pull down inflammation. That's not how you spell flame. Anti-inflame. Okay? Neurotrophin, first and foremost, really important. Second thing I like to do: omega-3 testing. Omega-3s are a type of fat that are easily the most important type of fat for the functioning of the nervous system. There's a couple of different omega-3s out there. We need to have certain levels of them. They need to be in balance, just like we want balance in our minerals. So I want the omega-3 test to be done because I want to know, does that person have enough DHA omega-3 and enough EPA omega-3? With that information, the information I get from a hair analysis and from an omega-3 test, I can offer all sorts of different types of support with food and supplements and even breath work to help that body perform the best that it can. I'm never going to claim to reverse cerebral palsy, but if we nourish that body so those parts of the body that are under stress can perform the best they possibly can, so we're providing them the things we know that they need, that gives us the best chance at success. And historically, it has always involved neurotrophin and some kind of omega-3. Good question, Schmitty. All right, other questions rolling in.
That might be our wrap up here. I don't see any questions come through.
You got me thinking about that 220. Can you talk to them before Friday?
Oh, yeah.
So that I can sleep Friday night?
Sure. Yeah,
I'm going to have to take a lot of Mintran tonight. 220. Jeez.
I hope I heard that wrong.
I'm just thinking, like, no loud noises in that person's house. I don't want anything startling them. All right, you wonderful humans. With Wednesday weekly workshops, when the questions run out, we call it a night. Thank you so much for being here to participate in these. The questions, the comments, sharing things like what Josiah said about feeling better. I love that. We want people to feel community here. If you're dealing with some kind of health challenge and you don't feel like you're getting answers, I'd like to introduce you to the majority of my clients. The people who come to work with me, they've typically seen a specialist already. They've often tried multiple things to resolve their health challenge, and they're still having trouble with that. We don't have magic here. There's no voodoo here. What we do is we tend to assess people in a different way than they have been assessed before, which means we get new info. And that new info is often like revelation, like, oh, no wonder you didn't respond well to this other therapy. You're missing ABC. Your body can't do that therapy the right way without ABC. Let's get you ABC. So these workshops allow us to bring this message to more people and to bring that community together so that you all know you aren't alone. Thank you so much for being here. You'll see us next Wednesday for another Wednesday weekly workshop where you get to ask Drew anything. It'll be the 89th time.